Have you ever thought about how loud your mind gets at night? Not when you're with people, not when it's very loud, when things finally get quiet. When the thoughts start to roll in of, what if I messed up today? What have I done? What if I fail? What if things don't get better in the future? And suddenly your mind is just a room with you and anxiety in it. You replay conversations at night, you try to predict outcomes, and you overthink everything. The worst part is sometimes that you can be surrounded by people and you can still feel alone in your head because of this. A lot of people smile publicly while they privately fight things like stress and anxiety, and maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're tired, not physically, but your soul is tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't seem to fix. And here's something important. Anxiety is loud, but God has never stopped speaking. So in this video, I don't want to tell you to stop worrying because I'm sure you've heard that before, especially if this is something you normally struggle with. I want to talk about why it feels so powerful, what it does to us exactly, what God actually says about it, and how to start fighting it in a real way without pretending just like everything's okay. So, first we got to understand what we're dealing with. Whether it comes from that one friend who keeps blowing your phone up in the middle of the night, or something big that's coming up in the future, anxiety usually starts small. Small as in just one thought, one fear that sits in your mind long enough to grow roots and get a lot bigger. Sometimes it could come from school, it could come from your relationships, or it can be bred from responsibilities that you have, bills, expectations, family pressures, a fear of failure, and trying to keep everyone happy while you're quietly falling apart yourself. Happens more times than you probably know. I've seen it in so many people in my life, and I've seen it in my own. But all of this anxiety, it shares one common ancestor, trying to control things that we were never meant to control. Most of us want guarantees. I know I want certainty. I want to know how everything will turn out before I put my trust in God. But life doesn't work out like that. Overthinking becomes our attempt to gain control over a life that's not ours. That's why anxiety lives in the what ifs of life. What if I mess up? What if they leave? What if I'm not good enough? And what if God doesn't come through? Stressing is one of the things that I struggle with the most, but most of the things that I worry about never really happen. Yet anxiety makes your imagined problems feel real, and today's world feeds it constantly. We compare our lives to edited versions of everybody else's life, to stuff that they put out there, present snippets of the good life that we scroll endlessly watching, with noise everywhere, opinions everywhere, external pressures coming in and closing you in. Our minds were never designed to consume this much fear this often. And eventually we start carrying these burdens alone because we think that no one understands it like we do. But one of the biggest dangers of this anxiety is it slowly makes you forget about God's faithfulness. Not intentionally, not you turning away knowingly, but the anxiety zooms your focus so tightly onto the problems that you lose sight of who God is and what He's done for you and what He's carried you before. Your mind starts to say that God might not help this time. And if you haven't followed Christ in the past, it's even more dangerous because it makes you question, what if He's not here for me? Is this really who I want to put my faith in? But even though He already has tried over and over again, our minds naturally focus on the danger. But God continually calls us to focus on trusting Him. Not because the problems are fake, but because He is bigger. And that is the struggle. So the biggest question we should be asking is, what does God say about this struggle? Well, God never waits for you to fix yourself before coming close to you. He meets you at your weakest points. Not after the storm, but He finds you in the middle of it. Sometimes we think that peace comes when finally life just becomes easy, but biblical peace, what God says is that biblical peace is calm inside of chaos. He says that strength while shaking, while nervous, and in moments where you fight through it is where real peace is. That's what trust before your answers arrive and before you're sure is real strength and real peace. And that kind of peace can only come from God. The Bible never pretends that anxiety isn't real, and it constantly points us towards what to do with it and where to take it. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." Notice something important in that verse. God doesn't just say, pretend you're fine. He says, bring everything to me. Be made known in God, to God. Prayer is not pretending problems don't exist. It's not refusing to carry them alone. It's just doing it. It's giving them to God, and it's all through Him in this prayer that your life can really be turned around. And prayer is probably one of the biggest weapons we have against anxiety. Obviously, it's not going to bring you instant relief, but talking to somebody, whether God or somebody you know, always helps. Another verse, Matthew chapter 6, verse 34 says, therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. That verse, it's different when you realize that anxiety is usually living in the future. It's tomorrow's problems, it's tomorrow's failures, and it's tomorrow's fears. Meanwhile, God keeps bringing us back to today, to right now, because grace is given every day, not 5 years in advance. And then Jesus says something powerful in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Not performance, not perfection. He'll give you rest. That means that you don't have to earn His presence by being mentally strong all the time. Come to Him. Come to Him in your anxiety, in your labors, and let Him help you fight through it. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7 says, casting all your anxieties on Him, because He cares for you. Not because you explain them perfectly, not because your faith is flawless and you're perfect, because He cares. It's a personal relationship with God. We're called to have a personal relationship with God. And you would tell somebody, hopefully, a personal, your best friend, the closest person to you, about your anxieties, especially to God, the one that can really heal them. Is not annoyed by your struggles. It's personal. He's not going to get overwhelmed by you. He's going to listen, and He's going to help. Philippians chapter 4, verse 7 says, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Peace becomes your guard, meaning anxiety does not have to rule over your mind forever, like we mentioned. Fear may take visits, but it does not have to own the house. That's the difference. He never promised that believers would never feel this struggle, feel this anxiety, but He did promise that it would never become your master. Now, you get all this different information, and you get all this stuff, and like, how do I do this in my life? How can I live this out? How can I exemplify God in this struggle specifically? And the truth about it is that healing from anxiety is usually very gradual. It's something that you live with, and if you're my age or older, you've lived with it for a very long time. And because it's gradual, a lot of people quit early on. That's the truth. I've quit probably a lot. I still have anxiety. But it convinces you that because the feeling is so strong that it must be permanent and it must remain in your mind. But feelings are not always truth. Your honest prayer, one honest prayer a day, can change the direction of what you thought, that anxiety that you thought you couldn't escape. An honest prayer, emptying your heart to God, can help you escape. If you pray honestly, not fake, real ones. God, I'm overwhelmed. God, I'm scared. God, I don't know what to do. He already knows your thoughts. He's just waiting for you to surrender to Him. So don't isolate yourself, because some battles grow stronger in secrecy. Seek wise people, people that you look up to. Seek a community. Seek friends, family. Seek comfort and companions who pull you to God, not deeper into those fears and not deeper into those anxieties or people that are ignoring them. And protect your mind. Not everything deserves unlimited access to what you're thinking. Sometimes a constant comparison to other people, maybe you're nonstop scrolling, or there's just an endless noise that you're feeding the anxiety that you're praying to try to stop. You cannot heal in the same environment that constantly drains your peace. I talked about that in the same video that I had about dealing with temptations. If you're putting yourself in that environment to feed the anxiety, it's very hard to get out. And maybe the biggest lesson to learn is that you trust God 1 hour at a time. Like I said, gradually. It's not your whole future at once. Sometimes faith looks less confidence in yourself and more dependence on God. You don't need to have every answer tonight. You just have to trust that that moment will come. Because your humility should be saying, God, I can't carry this by myself anymore. And strangely, that's often where your peace begins. And so, to wrap it all up, if anxiety has been controlling your mind lately, remember that your thoughts are loud, but God is still greater. You're not abandoned, you're not carrying this alone, and this will not last forever. Fear may want you to believe that, and it may want to believe that everything depends on you. But your faith should remind you who's in control, and that's God. So tonight, breathe, pray honestly, take the next step, and let God be stronger than the weight that you try to carry by yourself. Because peace is not found in controlling everything. It's found in trusting the one who already holds it all.